Awesome. Looks like we are live. We have everybody a minute to log in. And while we do that, be sure to log in, say hello, where you're logging in from, and what has been the best thing to happen to you today? Say hello, where you're logging in from, and what has been the best thing to happen to you today? Hey, Gail, how are you? Good to see you on here. Hey, Vicky, how are you? So be sure to log in, say hello, where you're logging in from, and what has been the best thing to happen to you today. And then we'll dive into today's video. So I understand too. I want to preface today's video with we gotta really come up with a better name of this. Today's Carpe Diem moment. I kind of like that. Carpe Diem moments, Carpe Diem thoughts. We really need to come up with it. Somebody needs to help me stamp that. But I want to preface today's video with this. I know that the title might be one that is an unusual one for you to see from me. And I promise you that if you'll listen to this with an open mind, I'm going somewhere with this. And I want to recount a recent experience that I had that I've gotten some time to think about. And I think that there's a really important message in there. So, hey, Lisa, good to see you on here. So, I don't think there's really too many updates to go into. Oh, I guess there is one update. Oh, actually, there's two updates. So the first one is I'm getting ready to teach my Healing from Loss course online. We're going to do it throughout the month of December, I think, and then we're going to take a little pause, and then we'll finish it up going into January. If you have an interest in taking the live version of it online, let me know, and I'll get you added to the waiting list. I'm only going to have 20 people do this, only 20 people to make sure I have enough time to work with everybody, talk with everybody. This is one of the more powerful trainings, I think, that is out there on loss and healing, and it'd be really an honor if that speaks to your heart, if you're in a space for it, to participate in that. The second thing is I am toying with the idea, and I put a post up on the 1,000 Challenge page. Not sure if you saw it, but I'm toying with, or not the 1,000 Challenge page, but my coaching business page about doing a 1 year 1,000 challenge type hybrid, where it wouldn't necessarily be 1,000 things, but what I would like to do is have 1,000 people participate in this, where together collectively we do something new, something out of our comfort zone, something that challenges us every day for the entire year of 2019. I'll help you figure those things out, decide of them, give you options and stuff, so it's not this huge, overwhelming, nor will it be a big time commitment. But the idea would be to form a community around this idea of doing new things, trying new things, and expanding ourselves for 2019. And then we'd create a group and a community around that we could discuss it, all those types of things. And my bigger goal with this, which is why I want the 1,000 people, is to do some meetups throughout the year where I could come and we could form a meetup in various parts around the world, and we could do some of these challenges together. I think it would be a really magical thing. So if you're interested in that, or if you have anybody who would be interested in that, just be sure to let me know. Comment in here. I'd be up for the 1,000 challenge hybrid, and then I can start adding you to the list. But my goal is to get 1,000 people to do this. There needs to be a sizable community to make this happen, to have it be the effectiveness I'd like it to be. And also, if you're interested in the Healing from Loss Live, be sure to comment that in there. You can say, I'm interested in Healing from Loss Live or HFL Live, and I'll get you on there. Hey, Maria and Jeff, good to see you on here. All right, now let's get on to today's video. The Topless Lady, My Judgments, and the Decisions We Make. This is a true story. So earlier today, I was checking out of my hotel room, and I was staying on the 3rd floor. It was a 4-story hotel, and I was taking the elevator down to the 1st floor. And I'd stayed at this hotel several times, and I was familiar with it. I had taken the elevator down to the 1st floor numerous times, so I was very familiar with the whole process of the elevator going down. And you know how you are in the elevator, right? You push the button, and then especially if you're going from whatever floor you're on down to your destination floor, the 1st floor, if that, for example, you kind of zone out with it, right? You get on there, you push the button, and then you say, okay, my work's done. When the doors open, that's my cue to get out, especially when you're on a hotel like that with only a few options to choose from. So I push the 3rd floor. I'm the only one in the elevator. And the elevator goes down. The doors ding. I kind of go in my little la-la land. The doors ding open. So I think, oh, I must be where I'm at. So I go to walk out. and I hear a man's kind of saying something, and I look over to my right. So there's two elevators. I was in the left one, and I look over to my right like this, and there is a lady standing in the elevator, and she has no top on, no clothes on, save for her underwear. She's completely topless here. She's covering herself like this. She looks like she's visibly out of it. And there's a guy saying, she was saying something to him like, well, what's going on? Where am I? And he was saying something to her like, she was saying something else. I wasn't quite sure because this is all happening super fast. And he's saying something to her like, that doesn't matter right now. We need to get you back to your room. That's the most important thing right now. So it sounded like she was being kind of resistant. And my initial glance at her, my initial assessment of her was that she looked like she might be under the influence of something. And the guy who was trying to get her back to her room was trying to get her out of the hallway and get her to a safe space before she caused a disturbance or something like that. So this was my initial thought. I realized I was on the second floor, and so I go and get back in the elevator and ride it down to the first floor. And as I'm in the elevator and taking that 10-second ride, I start to make all sorts of assumptions and judgments about her, right? I start to say, what is she doing? What happened in her life? What in the world's going on here? She must have done some sort of drugs. Did she drink too much? What's happened in her life? Like, she needs to get together. Like, all these voices are going in my head. And I walk up to the front desk and I tell the lady that I'm checking out, and I say to her, I said, you have to forgive me because I've never really uttered these words before out of my mouth, but I'm not quite sure if I should, how to say this, but there is a lady running around the second floor who's topless. And I think she's pushing the buttons on the elevator, and she seemed kind of disoriented and out of it. And the lady looks at me. She says, "Yeah, we had some calls about her making kind of a disturbance, and my manager has found her, and he's escorting her back to her room, and he's trying to get her back to her room and figure out where she's at, so she's not out in the hallway and whatnot." And I said, "Okay, that's good. I'm glad he's with her." And I said, "Gosh, that's got to be a tough position for him to be in." So I'm thinking about this more, and I go and I tell some of my friends a little bit later about what happened and experience I had, and then I start to think about it more. And this is really where the core message I want to get to this with all of you. This whole experience happened in less than 10 seconds. From the time I walked out of the elevator, realized I was on the wrong floor, saw the lady, heard the guy, got back in the elevator because I felt kind of embarrassed. Like, I was like, well, this lady's naked. I shouldn't be seeing this. I need to get back in the elevator. So the whole thing happened in about 10 seconds. And in that 10 seconds, I had this opportunity to make all these judgments. And never once in my judgments did I judge that maybe this lady was in trouble. Maybe that she needed help. Because my initial impression was, who in the hell is going to be up doing something like that? This lady must be causing a disturbance. She must have screwed up. She must have done some drugs. She must have done whatever those things are. And I started to analyze my own response to that and thought, how many times in life do I go through life and I don't see people who may be in need of help? I don't see the other side of the coin because I filter the world out to my initial judgment. How many times do all of us do that? Now, what it sounded like was what one of my initial judgments was that she wasn't an influence of something based off of what the conversation the front desk lady and I had, and also kind of the quick impression I had. And that's not to dismiss the judgments, right? It's to acknowledge that I had these judgments that were so filtered out from a reality that I wanted to see that I didn't even allow myself to peer in at this other part of reality. And so I really wanted to bring this to all of our attention because in our minds, our minds are processing thousands and thousands of thoughts. The average human being thinks anywhere from 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day. We don't remember most of those. But in those thoughts, we're using these thoughts to pull together all these pieces of information that we're not even aware of to form what we call reality. To help us make sense of the world, to help us make sense of situations, to help us make sense of what's going on around us. And here this was happening in front of me, and it wasn't something I'd ever seen before, nor was it obviously anything I was expecting. But I immediately defaulted to these certain judgments that were helping me make sense of it. And those judgments did not paint a very, kind or forgiving picture of the lady, because I went so quickly to try to go to an extreme scenario to help me make sense of what might be going on. I think that's a really important lesson to look like at, because so often in life we are so quick to try to make a decision to help us understand a situation, to help us rationalize something, that we may forget to look at the other side of the coin. We may not look at all the information available to us because we're making these decisions so fast that we dismiss any other possibility. And then when we do is we take that and we own it and we accept it as gospel. We start to add story behind it. We start to add layers behind it. It's the kind of example of, have you ever made a judgment about maybe somebody you're in a relationship with, and they do something that you don't agree with, and so you immediately call them a bad name, or you consider them a wrong or whatever that case may be, right? You think that they're at fault, that they're mean, they're cruel, only to find out later on that there was more information than it wasn't there before. But the point is that you made a decision right in the moment like that completely blocked anything out, and you started to create what this is, your version of reality. So it's such a fascinating thing, because my what I would lovingly suggest to you all is this, is that when you catch yourself judging others, which we all do all the time, some of us would like to try to pretend that we're so above judgment, and maybe some are. I'll tell you, working with people in this space for the amount of time I have and the amount of people I worked with, I still can't get myself to stop making judgments. But what I've started to learn how to do is to train myself to recognize that I am making these judgments and that they're an opportunity for me to learn. So what I could lovingly offer and suggest to all of you is this, is that perhaps you can find it within yourself when you catch yourself judging, to just ask and say, is this all the information that's available to me? It doesn't mean that there's a right or wrong. It just means that it might empower you to look a little deeper at the humanity, whether it's with your significant other, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with a person at work who really pisses you off, whether it's that person on the freeway who you just want to give the finger to, or whether it's a situation like I had today. So I really consider that. And then here's the third part of this, which goes down to the decisions we make. I'm going to come full circle back around here and just assume for a moment that perhaps that lady that I saw this whole thing transpire to, maybe my initial judgment was somewhat correct, that she was on something, that she had made some life decisions that had led her to the path that she was on. And so it's easy for me to sit there and cast judgment because I haven't made those same decisions, but she has. A lot of times in life, we will often try to remove ourselves from people. We'll distance ourselves and say, I'm nothing like them. They're nothing like me. I can't understand them. I can't relate to them. They're this way. I'm that way. We put labels on them to help us make sense of their behavior, right? And when we put labels on it, what happens is when we label someone as something, it strips away the humanity of them, right? This person is no longer a person. It's no longer a man, a woman, a human being. It's no longer somebody who was once an infant, the child of another human being. It's a label. And when we give ourselves the luxury of looking at people through labels, we strip away the emotion, we strip away the humanity of it, and we just look at them as a label. And we often will do that through the decisions people make, right? Or our perceptions of the decisions we make. So I did it in this moment and made this this judgment of her, and in that judgment I said, this person must have made these life decisions, and ends up with her in the hotel lobby naked like this. One of the things I think that could be very empowering for all of us to adopt, and I certainly try to remember this for my life, I'm far from perfect at it, is to remember that at any given time in our life, what separates us from one human being to another, especially those we'll judge, it only comes down to a few decisions. Really, it really only comes down to a few decisions. If you can find it within yourself to remove your ego from it and just float above your life and look at it, and you'll see that there's critical junctures in your life where you made a decision, but there may have been a part of you that wanted to lean the other way or was about to make a different decision. And had you made that different decision, your life could have turned up entirely different. There was times when I was partying a lot, and I remember, it was just, times, and I'm not proud of this at all, nor do I in any way, by saying this, am I saying this to advocate it. I'm actually quite ashamed of it, but I'm saying it in hopes that this helps illustrate a point. There was times when I used to party a lot. I would hop in the car and drive because I would tell myself, oh, I'm fine, I'm this, I'm that, and maybe we'll go into this discussion a little bit later on if it's of interest to you, not the partying stuff, but the actual some of the repercussions of it. I just want to use this as an illustrative point right now. And I've often thought, in looking back on that time with such shame, about how close I was with decisions of radically changing my life. There was times where I could have hurt somebody, I could have killed somebody, I could have hurt myself, whatever the case may be. There's been times in my life where I made the decisions to, making decisions to say no to people who were trying to influence me, to say no to people who I didn't think were the most empowering to me, to say no to friends who were going to go out and have fun because I decided to stay back and work instead. Right, to say no to going somewhere that would have been really cool and exciting because I felt financially my money would be better used to go towards this, to expanding my business, whatever that is. And these are decisions that all of us in some way, shape, or form may have encountered at some point in our life. And so in my full circle time of really thinking about this moment with this lady today, I started to ask myself, once I got past my judgmental part of myself, I started to ask myself, I wonder if I were to put our lives out like this on 2 equal parts, how many decisions separate my course in life and her course in life? Right? Because at one point we were both right here. We were both right next to each other. We both came out. We were both toddlers. We were both these helpless beings. We both had to learn to crawl before we could walk before we run. I'm willing to bet that she never in her life woke up one day and said, one day she hopes and aspires to get to a point in her life where she's waking up at some hotel, maybe drugged out, whatever the case may be, and being judged by some guy in a Zero Limit shirt because of the decisions she's made. I don't know about any of you, but I certainly never made that. And I bet she didn't either. But the decisions in our lives created these different paths that started to dissect from one another. And I say that because I think that's so true for all of us, right? We all have these decisions. We all have these paths that we each choose. And fortunately, for many of us, we make choices that empower our lives, enrich our lives, bring us more love, joy, fulfillment, all those things. And some of us, we may not. And we're trying to find the choices we need to make, the decisions we need to make to get us on that trajectory. Some of you may be on here right now, and hopefully this message is resonating with you and empowering you. And then sometimes some of us, we make different decisions. We make different choices that push us further away. And as we get further and further away, or at least perceptually further and further away, we start to attach labels to people, because then that way we can strip away the humanity, and we can say to ourselves, they're not like me, I'm not like them, I'm over here, they're over here. It makes us more forgiving for the judgments we cast on one another, to try to help us make sense of the world and our reality as we see it. I know this is going on long, so let me wrap this up here full circle, because I want to make sure I let you all go. And I want to take a moment to read some of the comments that are popping up on here. My heart goes out to that lady who I encountered today. I don't know what circumstances that there are in life that's brought her to where she is. And I sincerely hope that she finds it within herself to get her on a trajectory that brings her more out of life of what she wants, and that she finds it within herself to maybe clear. Who knows? By the power of the internet, maybe this gets shared around enough or passed around enough where somehow, some way it reaches her. Those things have happened before. It's kind of the miracle of the social space now, is we can have those kinds of extraordinary things happen. The second thing is for myself and for all of us, is to remember that our judgments we often use our judgments to remove the humanity from other people. And we'll often use our judgments to also hide a part of ourselves that we may not want to look at and confront and acknowledge. If I would have just run with my initial judgments, I would have had the luxury of never having to look at how quickly I was to dismiss this whole other plethora of possibilities of what might be going on for this woman's life. And in so doing, I would have never had to feel the shame or the guilt that I did feel at one point, because I thought, gosh, I didn't even give her the benefit of the doubt. She may have been in trouble. I was right there, and I could have, if she was in trouble, I could have done something to stop it. But I didn't do that because I went with this one other judgment, and that judgment or those other judgments weren't going to allow me to look at that. So if I can encourage you all, it's this, is to recognize that we're all going to judge. And when we do, give ourselves some grace, remember the humanity, and give the other people that we're judging some grace. And remember that the decisions we've made in life, whether we're judging them in one space or another, there's not a whole hell of a lot that separates us. We're often much more closer, our paths are often much closer than we may realize. We may like to try to sit up here high and say we would never end up like that, but none of us can say that because we're living our lives we're living, and it's easy to sit there and look at the other person and say, I would never do that. But I don't know about all of you, but I know that there's been times in my life where if something would have gone one different way, I sure as hell wouldn't be sitting here talking with all of you right now. So I appreciate each and every one of you sticking with me on this. I hope you found some value in this message. I hope it gives you an opportunity to maybe look introspectively at yourselves. I hope that this might be empowering too, in the sense of, what goes on in here and here, you have space to affect that. You have space to change that. And I hope that this also empowers you to make the choice in how you see other people, and maybe choose to see them in a different light than you might normally, especially with your loved ones, people you care about, people that you may hold hostility to right now. Allow them some grace, and that's pretty much all I got to say about that. I appreciate each and every one of you listening. I'm going to read through some of these comments real quick, and then we will wrap it up for today. I love any feedback you have, so please share it in there. Julia said I was guilty of this yesterday. Terry Lynn, we're all struggling with something. People need to be kinder. Yeah, I 100% agree. My first thought when you started the story, my mind went to human trafficking, and she escaped. You know what, Gail? I honestly, that was one of the thoughts I sat with after the fact, and I felt sick to my stomach about it. And that was after I had the conversation with the hotel manager, and she confirmed that the person she was with was the manager, and he was trying to get her back, and that she was checked in and all these other things there. But I sat with that thought later on today and just thought, but there you go. I would have never even seen that, because I was so committed in those moments of decision to the story I was telling myself and how I was judging. Julia, my first thought about the lady was she possibly drugged, date raped, naked, not knowing where she was in a hotel. That was another one I sat with later on. Yep, that was another one I totally sat with later on, Julia. I started to run through some of those scenarios, and it same thing like I was saying with what Gail said. I felt sick to my stomach afterwards, because I was so I'll forgive myself, because we know not what we know not, in the sense, but I was so quick to go to those things that I wouldn't even allow myself to see that as a potential. And that's part of the reason why I want to share this with all of you, because we're always judging, and it may not be in extreme scenarios like this. I think this was definitely one of the more extremes, but we're always casting these judgments on people, the people who bag our groceries, the people who are waiters at a restaurant, our husbands, our wives, our boyfriends, our girlfriends, our brothers, our sisters, our family members, our friends. And we know that we're always judging. Recognize that's a part of humanity, but recognize that you have a choice to revisit that and then make a decision about how you really want to see a human being. Yeah, 100% agree. We're just one bad choice. All right, everyone. I appreciate each and every one of you being on here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I truly hope that you found some value in this. That I know this went on a little bit longer than normal. Maria, you're very welcome. A quick reminder, if you're interested in the Healing from Loss course, the live one, it'll be online, but I'll be teaching it live. Just comment below Healing from Loss, HFL. And then also, if you're interested in doing the Hybrid 1000 Challenge for 2019, make a note in there, and then I will start collecting and seeing who all's interested in that. Appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thank you so much. Sending lots of love to you all. And remember, if you catch yourself judging someone, try to see it from the other side. Make sure you have all the information before you make that decision. See you next time, everyone. Bye-bye.